That's your room here. Well, I want to start with a journey that goes some 45 kilometers to the west of Paris, and there you might eventually find a little house on the countryside. Here it's a nice picture of a kind of early spring, late winter. And it's a story about Jean Monnet, who was the founder of the European Union, and he used to do a very good morning practice. He walked into the woods. So if this sounds familiar to you, well, he was doing that in 1950, and he was doing it ever since. And in 1950, in spring, he was walking there, and he was asking himself, I've just done now 60-something, and in the memoirs he tells a story, and what do I do now? Kind of, I feel like he has accomplished the Marshall Plan for France and things like that. So he was asking himself, if I would think about how to unify Europe, what would I do? And after a couple of days, he gave a couple of phone calls, and a handful of people designed a master plan for the European Union that still works. And this is how he was working. This is his main work instrument. This was Jean Monnet's dining table. And there he was meeting people over dinner, typically cooked by his own wife, and people were sitting there having meaningful conversations. Usually he was asking an important question, and people were there simply throwing in their bits of wisdom to his question, and once he had patterns coming back that made sense to him, he had a plan. And it was faster than the politicians of his times. So many years later, sort of close to 60 years later, an exploration team of the European Commission sees the origins of the European Commission. And we were doing the very first seminar at his house that was inspired by Jean Monnet. But we brought in the art of hosting into the European Commission, into many different management and other seminars, and we were bringing the Monnet table to lots of conversations. So this was one of our more traditional meetings. We had Toke Muller engaged, and we had management retreats, which was already changing a lot how managers were connecting to each other. And so people were basically using the table to have meaningful conversations based on a big question where nobody had an answer to start with. And the questions could be as diverse, like what should be a strategy for the Joint Research Center with 3,000 researchers, or in that case that you see here, how should we do publications about the European Union really? And how could we use technology better? And actually they were starting here, lots of people from the European Publications Office, they were starting here a whole strategy how to streamline their processes of production. Anyway, it's a big challenge in public sector to get more efficient. Sometimes we don't have a table, and people do the work on the floor. Here you see the director of the European Union talking with some of his staff members and another middle manager sitting there on the ground. And they're using something like colorful papers and pens to basically do action plans and strategies. Anyway, we have other serious people standing on the top of tables that we couldn't move, so somehow the people started moving instead of moving the tables. It's a very normal meeting room at the center of Brussels, where typically member state experts come together. They have very set places, and what you see there in the image is kind of the mirror of the glasses where the translators sit and interpret. And those people had a more direct touch. We came back to the Monnet house several times, here with the director's team of the Internal Market Director General. You see me sitting there with a beard. I've cut that off after that, not because of the meeting that went very well, but people there they were kind of connecting back to, and here in person with one of these survivors from the Monnet times, who was one of the first head of cabinet of Jean Monnet in 1952 in Luxembourg, still alive, 90-year-old, very young guy, Georges Bertoin, who was basically sharing his perspective of what the European Union had become. So the first generation meeting the current leaders. At the second day, they took the tables outside in the garden of the Jean Monnet house, and here they did a pro-action cafe on the question, what could the internal market also be? And one of the outcomes was, maybe we need to think beyond market. There is a society out there. And they didn't know the answers to that question, but it was amazing to see how their horizon had shifted. When we started training people, here you see people in Vienna last year learning about the art of participatory leadership, alias known as art of hosting. And you see them picking up or talking, listening arcs for a meaningful story. And here you see people kind of learning the lessons, like how to lead change to scale. And these people were the fastest learners I've ever met in the European Union context, because immediately during the training they were already having their meetings all the time in circle with talking pieces, and they were presenting their findings in much more visual forms than ever. And here you see an a conference hosted by the Fundamental Rights Agency of the European Union on the very interesting topic, how could the Holocaust memory inform human rights education? So coming back to the origins, because what was behind the Jean Monnet project was kind of, well, we don't want a Second World War again, do we? And here we see how you harvest the results in a very visual, direct form. And this is how serious people that run in Holocaust memorials and do curricula for teachers all over Europe kind of learn what they learned. So something in the conversations had shifted, and you could see it. Now, this is actually from the 17th of March, just last, kind of 2 weeks ago. I was hosting a transition party because I quit the European Union kind of on the 1st of February, and one of our practitioners made me a nice gift by asking me to host a Proaction Cafe, one of the processes I had been inventing myself, together with Ria Bach. And this is a picture from the cafe. So part of the party was we got everybody around to ask meaningful things that they had on their mind then, and ask each other for help. And eventually we'll experience Proaction Cafe, I heard, later this week. And so this was a way how to have a celebration and to have a new way, a new version of me. Now this is a picture also from the Fundamental Rights Agency training, the talking piece collection in the center. And with that, I just want to close this nice little sharing of what a table could also become. And thank you for attention.